Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. Former Arkansas Governor and Fox News host Mike Huckabee is traveling the nation promoting two new books that celebrate the joy and virtues of Christmas. Earlier, I caught up with Governor Huckabee on board his tour bus outside a book signing in Jupiter, Florida. We asked him about the books, some current events, and the possibility of another presidential bid in 2012. Well, Governor, thanks so much for making time for us today.
Happy to do it.
Well, your new book, Can't Wait Till Christmas, teaches a very powerful lesson that you learned as a child, but it also reveals a rather mischievous side of you. Tell us about the book and the message that you want to send to kids.
Well, this is a very fun book. You know, I think if people are going to try to read into something here and say, what political message does he have? There isn't one. This is just a fun book for children at Christmas time, a great book to read to your kids or grandkids. And it's a true story, how my sister and I, when we were little, would wait till our parents were at work, and then we'd get up under the tree with all the gifts that were wrapped for us. We'd pull them out, open them, play with the stuff, then carefully wrap them back and put them under the tree and act like little innocent angels right up until Christmas Day. Then Christmas Day, we would do our very best to give these Oscar-winning performances of feigning utter surprise at what we had found in our boxes. And we were pretty good at this. My sister was especially remarkable at being able to put the packages back together. This worked until the year that I got a J.C. Higgins football from Sears, all wrapped up. I'd been playing with it for several days. And on Christmas morning, when I opened up the box, my dad said, "Let me see that football." Problem was the football had mud and dirt all over it because we had hurriedly wrapped it one day when we were thinking, gosh, they're about to come home. Well, the gig was up, and obviously they were crushed that we had been deceiving them all this time. So it's a cute story, but there is a lesson, and the lesson is that if you deceive the people who trust you, then the things that you thought you were really enjoying, you don't enjoy at all. And I hope that it's a great lesson about patience and the virtue of that. And I think, again, it's a great story, a conversation opener for people to talk to their kids or maybe their grandkids about.
Now, was that football your favorite Christmas present as a child, or if not, what was?
You know, probably the favorite Christmas present that I had was when I was 11, and I got my first electric guitar. My parents ordered it from J.C. Penney catalog. They paid $99 for the whole rig. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was a lot of money for them. And they ended up going without a Christmas for themselves. They couldn't afford to pay for it, so they paid a little bit each month for a year until they could pay for that electric guitar that I got. The cover of my book, which is A Simple Christmas, that's a book for adults. It's of me as a 5-year-old trying my best to give the most Elvis-like pose I could with an old cowboy guitar that my dad had owned. And I think it's a 1934 Gene Autry guitar. And anyway, so I wanted my own, and when the Beatles came out, I was absolutely determined, you know, I wanted an electric guitar. And one year, after several attempts of getting one, I finally just said, either get the electric guitar or I don't want a thing. And I got this close to not getting anything. But fortunately, the guitar was my gift.
Now, you just re-released A Simple Christmas, which is a New York Times bestseller. It encourages folks to put Christ back in Christmas. In light of the challenges that we're facing as a nation, do you see Christ making a comeback in the lives of more Americans? And is President Obama leading the way to reach out to Christians, in your view?
I think this White House has not been very, I won't say they haven't been open, but I certainly don't think that they have recognized the enormous heritage that this country has spiritually and religiously. I don't want to ever have an America where we shun people of faiths other than Christian. But the Judeo-Christian bedrock foundation of this country is simply irrefutable. And I just got a memo just this week from a teacher in Georgia who copied me on the memo that she was given as a school teacher about what they should and shouldn't do, how that they are to have a holiday season. They can, if they have to, say Merry Christmas, but they cannot in any way give it a religious connotation. Well, I'm sorry, but that's what the holiday is. The word Christmas is a word that is the words Christ Mass. The worship of Christ is what it means. And I think it's historically inaccurate and dishonest to act as if this is a completely secular holiday that does not have anything to do with a faith, because it does. Now, you can give people the option of saying you don't have to believe this faith, but this faith has caused people to build more hospitals, more food centers to feed people, more schools and universities than any other faith in the history of mankind. I think it's dishonest, and it's even hurtful to not let people know that Christianity has resulted in an enormous raising of the level of education, of the worth of women, of the worth of all people, the end of slavery. Pick many of the great social movements of the last 500 years, or 2,000 years for that matter, and Christianity has been at the centerpiece of that.
Now, big news in Washington this week. Senate Republicans and Democrats are apparently getting close to a deal that would temporarily extend Bush-era tax cuts for all earners and unemployment benefits. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think it's really important that they get this done, and one of the reasons that it has to happen is because the reason the unemployment rate keeps holding up there near 10%, went up last month, the economist said unexpectedly. I don't think it's unexpected to anybody who understands how business works, because with uncertainty hanging over business owners, they can't hire anybody. They don't know what the cost of doing business is going to be, not just from what it's going to cost per hour to employ someone, but what will the regulatory cost be? We know that the cost of Obamacare is going to be staggering. You add all this together and people are afraid to make a move. So that means businesses who could hire and who would hire instead are hunkered down, and they're afraid of their government. That's a terrible position for us to be in America. That's not how we're supposed to be.
Senator Mitch McConnell said Sunday that a repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell likely won't happen this year, and you've gone on record saying that you'd like Don't Ask, Don't Tell to remain in effect. What do you see as the consequences of repeal, should it happen?
Well, there was a big way of touting the survey that said that a majority of the military members didn't care. But if you look deeper into the crosstabs of that poll, what you find out is that an overwhelming number of the combat troops are opposed to it. And it's like 58% of the Marine combat troops. You also find that there's 14% of the American soldiers who say they would not re-up if it was in place, and another 10% who said they would consider not re-upping when their enlistment time came up. Now, if you lose 25% of the current force, which is already understaffed, and you have the combat forces which are highly opposed to it, you wonder, where are we going to get our fighting men and women? Do you think they're going to come from Harvard? Are we going to go up? Will they now start signing up since we're going to, if we repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Again, I just think that the military should not be a social experiment. It's a fighting force, and we need to do whatever it is that makes it the best fighting force in the nation. And so the fact that this is even an issue, to me, is a little bit confusing. Why would we make this an issue right now?
Governor, to another issue that's making headlines this week, you recently said execution is too kind of a penalty for the WikiLeaks suspects. Do you think that the Obama administration has been too soft in its response?
Well, maybe their response is measured because they're trying to minimize the impact. But if there was, in fact, and we don't know for sure, there's been a person arrested, a private first class, but if in fact a member of the military leaked 250,000 top secret documents to our enemies, let's just remember that, number one, that violates the Espionage Act of 1917, but more significantly, it violates both his oath as a soldier and the oath he had to take in order to get top secret clearance. But it does show, to me, a bigger issue within the realm of classified information. Why would this guy have access to that kind of information? I know this, that if I want to download a song on iTunes and I hit buy, it brings up a screen and tells me, are you sure you want to buy this? Are you sure? And I've got to once again confirm that I want to buy a 99-cent song off iTunes. I'm wondering, is there not some mechanism in place so that you see a soldier who's somehow using his computer to download hundreds of thousands of documents, and there's no system in place to monitor that he's done it? I mean, if our government is that incompetent, then let's get Apple to run the top secret documents section, because at least they have a mechanism to track how many things you're downloading. Heck, Google can follow me better than that. Why can't the United States government know who's looking at their documents and when they're downloading them? That's absurd.
All right, Republicans won big in the midterms. What is your advice to them, the GOP, as to how it should be using its new power in the next session of Congress?
Well, the main thing they better do is to be faithful and true to Republican principles of keeping taxes low, making sure that government is as limited and as local as possible, not turning the country into a nanny state, and doing everything they can to deal with some of the issues that people are worried about. Open borders. We watch what's going on in Mexico and we think we have a whole other war going on down there. You know, we're worried about Iraq and Afghanistan. We need to be worried that just across our border we got police chiefs and soldiers and teenagers who are being beheaded by the drug cartels. That's a serious issue for us. So I think the Republicans have a big duty, but it starts with being true and faithful to the principles that people expect out of the Republicans.
Governor, last question real quickly. Some are saying that your book tour looks like a dry run for the presidency. You recently told Politico, quote, "Whether I decide to run or not, the fact is that if one looks at the overall body of information that's available, nobody would be in a better position to take it all the way to November." Given the dearth of information that you're talking about, do you plan to run?
It's still an open question, and I'm not being coy. It's just I haven't decided, and I'm seriously looking at it. It'd be less than honest if I said, oh no, I never think about it. Of course I do, especially when poll after poll puts me in a position that shows me in a real position to win all the way to the White House. I think the biggest thing I have to work through is, can I get the nomination? Can I raise the money? And can I deal with what really is the biggest challenge? That's getting through what will probably be a very crowded Republican field. What I hope doesn't happen is that the Republicans don't eat each other alive in the primary, because all that does is whoever emerges, whether it's me or somebody else, they're going to be very weakened, and they're going to go with a big loss of blood into the final round, and they're going to need all the strength they can, because Obama's going to start with $1 billion in his account. He will have virtually no opponent in the Democratic primary. If he does, it'll be minimal, and that's going to be a big mountain to climb. So the Republicans need to run against Obama, not against each other. If that happens, then I think we've got a chance to make Obama a one-term president.
All right, Governor Mike Huckabee, thanks so much, and congratulations on the books.
Thank you very much, Kathleen.